Hi everyone, it's Erin from the Provincial Farmhouse. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we're going to be creating a French Country Spring Wreath using IOD molds and a thrifted frame. You can find a full product list in the description of this video and all your crafting needs on our website, theprovincialfarmhouse.com.au. I picked this frame up for $2 from the thrift store and thought it would be perfect for today's projects. I've seen a few wreaths on Pinterest using frames like this and thought that with some IOD molds we could turn it into something really beautiful. So I've removed the backing and now we're going to be using IOD's Classic Elements and Olive Crest molds. I'm out of my amazing casting resin, so I'm going to be using craft cast resin. I also have this on my website available. To make this very similar to amazing casting resin, you pour part A into a cup, part B into a cup. They've got to be equal parts, and then when you're ready, you mix them together and you stir them well. After I've stirred them well, I'm going to very carefully pour them into my molds. So this looks sort of yellow in color, but it does dry into a lovely cream color, as you can see here. So it's been about 15 minutes, so I'm going to take my castings out of the molds. So this is a pretty plain frame, but as you can see, by adding these molds, I'm going to turn it into something ornate and quite inspired by the Victorian era. To attach these, I'm going to be using my Gorilla Super Glue Gel, and it only takes a couple of minutes to fully adhere, so it's perfect for this project. You could also use hot glue for this or a wood glue. It just takes a lot longer for it to actually stick down if you use those, so I elected to use this. So as you can see, I've just put a strip down, I'm positioning my castings, and then I'm going to let them dry. Once the glue's dry and my castings are secure, I'm painting each of these molds with Dixie Belle's chocolate chalk mineral paint. I want this to be a sort of wood tone similar to what the frame is already, because we're going to have peaks of it showing through once we have completed our next step. So you don't need to do any priming on these castings. They are ready to go, and chalk paint sticks to pretty much anything. So after I've let it dry, I'm now coming in with Dixie Belle's Crackle Medium. So I've stirred it up really well and I'm applying it onto my frame. Now, the thicker you apply the Crackle Medium, the bigger your cracks are. If you put it on thin, you are going to get finer cracks. You've then got to let this dry completely before the next step. There are quite a few Crackle Medium products on the market, so it really is up to you what you're going to use. I've even seen people use PVA glue, so again, it's just up to you. So my Crackle Medium is completely dry, and now I'm coming in with Dixie Belle's Buttercream Chalk Mineral Paint. I've really loaded up my brush, and I'm trying not to do too many swipes with my brush, as you may distress the crackle that's underneath it. You may interrupt the process of it and even pull it away. So definitely try to only do a few swipes of your paint, as you don't want to interrupt that process. You won't get that crackle effect if you keep fussing at it. I'm also using a really light hand here. I'm not applying much pressure at all, just enough to get that paint on there and to spread it out. And as I'm coming up to my more intricate details, I'm actually just sort of gently dabbing on the paint as opposed to doing lots of swipes with my paintbrush. And you will see in a little bit that I actually get a little bit of a smaller paintbrush to get into some of the areas. Again, you really don't want to fuss at this too much. This is very hard for me not to fuss at it too much, because I am a bit of a perfectionist, like a lot of you probably are, but you've just got to trust that process and just be very gentle when you're putting your paint over your crackle. As I'm going for quite a vintage look here, I did choose to have the wood showing through underneath, and obviously that chocolate chalk mineral paint up the top. But you could definitely go in a different direction with this. You could have a bright pop of color underneath and then put your Crackle Medium over the top of your dry paint and have a black or a white, and you could have that bright color popping through. It really is up to you and what project you're working on and what you're trying to achieve. But Crackle is a really fun product to use, and especially if you're looking for a rustic sort of weathered look. Once this is dry, I'm going to seal the entire frame with easy peasy spray wax before I move on to my next step. Next, I'm going to get my supplies together. I want a little wreath down in the corner, and I want to layer a lot of greenery and natural elements to give this a bit of a spring Easter feel. Again, this is going to be up to you and what you want to achieve. I'm using my hot glue gun here to attach everything, and I'm just putting a big spot of it down there where the nest can go. I'm having the nest off center, and you want a nest that is in proportion to your frame. You wouldn't want anything too small, but you also don't want to go too big here and have it overpower the frame. I'm then going to start layering in some greenery, so I'm just putting a few spots of hot glue down, and then I'm coming in with my fern style greenery there. I want that to be a bit further to the background. So you really want to think about the layers when you are arranging florals. I am not an expert by any means, but I just do what feels right, and I want the sort of plainer flowers further towards the back. So we are putting the ferns down first, and I'm also thinking about the shape. I want them to have a bit of a curved shape to follow the shape of the frame. So I'm positioning them in a way that will complement the curves, and the hot glue is going to help hold it in place. I'm also using a little spatula there, you can see, to apply pressure on the glue without burning myself. I then want to add these lavender style flowers to sit just on top of the ferns, so they're just going to be a nice little pop of colour, but not too overpowering either. So again, just following the curve there and pressing it underneath the little nest and making sure that I've got enough glue to hold it in place. I'm also going to come in and add some more ferns as well, just to fill it in a little bit more. And if you're trying this at home, remember, you can use whatever you want, whatever you have access to. There's really a lot of different ways that you can go with this. You could create more of a summer feel as opposed to a spring feel. It really is up to what you are trying to create. Next, I'm going to come in with some faux moss style plants here. I got it from a craft store here in Australia called Spotlight. You can probably get something similar on Amazon. I'm adding some glue to the nest, and I'm just going to add some of that brighter green moss. I really love the different tones of green, and it just really adds a lot of depth to the piece when you're able to have those different tones. I'm also going to add some around the base of the frame as well, and I'm not being super careful about how much or how little I use. I'm just adding some glue and then pressing in the moss, and whatever sticks. And again, there is no right or wrong way to do this. Just go with whatever you like. Next, I grabbed some elements from a Easter pick that I had pulled apart, and I was just working out how I wanted them to sit. And in the end, I did decide that I would grab a couple of pieces of it and actually bend it to sit underneath the nest. This is just something you've got to play with. You've got to have a bit of a think about what's going to work for the design you're trying to create. And again, I just love adding all these different elements: the moss, the ferns, the lovely nest there. It all has those different textures, which really just adds to a really beautiful spring feel. From the same pick, I also took these little berry sprig things here. I thought that the white contrasted nicely with the green and purple tones that we had going on. So again, just adding that other tone just adds that other layer of interest. So I've just added a little bit of glue, and then I'm also going to thread it a little bit into the little bird's nest as well to help hold it. And I'm adding a little bit more glue here and there just to secure it in place. I'm also going to add some more of those little white berries on the other side as well. Now I want to add some eggs to my little bird's nest there, so I'm going to take 3 small eggs from Riot Art. First, I'm going to give them a base coat of Dixie Belle's Buttercream chalk mineral paint, and I'm just going to dab it on. I'm not being super careful to get it really smooth. Once that's dry, I'm going to come in with Dixie Belle's Vintage Duck Egg. I want these to have a little bit of a blue tinge, and again, I'm not being super careful to get full coverage here. I just want to get a light coat on here, and once I've actually got all 3 of the eggs painted, I'm going to grab a wet wipe and I'm going to dab off some of the paint to give it more of a sort of mottled look here. I think it adds just a little bit of realism. And then I'm coming in with some chocolate chalk mineral paint, and I'm using my paintbrush to flick little specks onto the eggs. Next, I'm going to arrange the eggs in my nest, but I also found some cute little feathers that I picked up from Spotlight, that same craft store that I mentioned previously, and I thought again that added that touch of realism. So we're going to glue those down first with my hot glue gun. I've only got 2 in there. I don't want it to be too crowded, so I've just added a little dab of glue there to glue that down. I'm going to glue the other feather down as well, and then I'm going to repeat the same process and glue the eggs in the nest as well. Once I've got all the eggs glued in, I did decide to add a little bit of glue to the sides of each of the eggs to actually have them stick together as well. I just thought it would add a little bit more stability. And here's our finished French Country wreath. I'm so happy with how this turned out. I think that crackle really aged the frames, and the beautiful IOD molds really gave this a beautiful Victorian classic elegance. Let me know what you think of today's project in the comments. I really hope that you enjoyed today's video and that it's inspired you to give some plain frames that you have at home a makeover. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, and share it out to a friend that you think might enjoy it. If you aren't already, I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of our projects. You can find all of the products used in today's video on our website, theprovincialfarmhouse.com.au. Thanks for watching.